on episode 10 and we're still going. We have not got canceled yet, which is a shock because this is the worst show in the MMA podcast world. Yes, it is Shootin' the Shit here on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. I am your host, Riley Contek. Again here with another top guy, another UFC fighter. I think that's 3 or 4 in a row that we've gotten on the show. Well, not last week. That was Invicta, but close enough. We have featherweight Mike Davis from Florida. So good weather. How's it going, Mike?
It is going extraordinarily well. Everything here is fantastic.
Yeah, how's the weather out there these days?
Hot. It's hitting 95 and up now.
Yeah, you can tell the summer's finally rolled in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so before we get started on the podcast, I'm going to do my weekly plug here. Since most of my fans are here in Illinois, I, of course, am going to we're going to plug our sponsor, Cornelius & Sons, LLC. If you have any home improvement projects or construction projects at your house that need to be taken care of and you want it done at good prices, contact Raul at Cornelius & Sons. Like I said, they've done work on my house, and it's been very good. And like I said, Raul's a good guy. He's easy to work with. So, again, if you are in Illinois and you want some homework done, make sure you go on Facebook to Cornelius and Sons. So thanks again to them. So, Mike, just to get the first thing out of the way here, you're a tough man to get a hold of. So we've been talking since last week. All you do is work out. How has that workout been affected by the lockdowns and all that? I know Florida opened up a little bit earlier, but how have you been taking care of that, and how often do you work out per day?
So how far back do you want me to start? Because when this whole lockdown came into play, it was like May. And when that happened, it was complete shutdown. Like, we couldn't go out, we couldn't go to the gym, nothing. So even myself, I was just forced to do little workouts in the living room and ride my bike, wear a mask, and it wasn't really getting anywhere. And then they started opening up to this first wave where they finally let some people back in the gym, and I was able to train then. And honestly, since May, my training has been increased with this COVID-19 lockdown than it was before the COVID-19.
So you making up for lost time then, or?
I'm just training twice as much as I was before.
So that would explain why you said you were sore before we got on here. I guess overworking yourself. Do you get a rest day in anywhere?
No, of course. Yeah, I rest.
For sure.
I definitely try. But my workouts every day, they're wake up, I do a warm-up, which is 2 to 5 miles, depending on what my day is planned for, with pull-ups, push-ups, this little thing to get my body warm, like a full body kind of jump. And then 11 to 12 or 2 every day I'm training. It's either grappling, sparring, wrestling. I'm even going to take up yoga, so it'll be taking up those spots. And then I rest, I eat, hang out by the pool. 6 o'clock comes, I'm right back in the gym from 6 to 8, 8:30.
For sure, yeah. And our gyms in Illinois just opened up on Friday finally. So I mean, that was a tough little bit there. Yeah, like you said, doing the home workouts. It's not really the same though, because even after working out every day, getting back to the gym and doing the heavy stuff, yeah, I've been sore ever since.
Yeah, the calisthenic workouts, I'm not getting anything from it. I mean, my little cardio boost from doing burpees all day long, but that's it.
Yeah, it was definitely tough. And I mean, even like my squat went down over 100 pounds just in that couple months, not being able to really do much other than like body weight squats. So it's been tough. So you work out that much, and you're obviously a workaholic because you're always in the gym and you're doing all the mixed martial arts things. Do you have any hobbies outside of fighting? Because it seems like that's all you do pretty much is fight and work out.
I don't think so. I like to explore. So if I can get on a bike and go into the woods, that's the first thing I'm going to do. And I also game. I like to play video games. Call of Duty mostly.
Oh, okay.
Any of these new kind of like open multiplayer people.
All the
like
on the online stuff?
All Apex and Fortnite, and I play all those games.
You got much of a party life, or is it just too much working out and video gaming?
If I partied, it would just I'm not a party person. I can't. I'm the guy that if you leave my house and I have to go somewhere and I'm not able to stay at that spot, I don't want to go.
For sure. For sure. Now, because obviously your job, and it seems like fighting's a 24/7 job for you. I mean, since you've been a mixed martial artist, have you had to hold other jobs to try and pay the bills?
Yeah. So I just got into the UFC in 2019, April 2019, where I fought Gilbert. And before then, I was working at Tire Kingdom, and I was making as much money as I do in one fight for the UFC for a whole year. So now I had to work that job, and I was doing pro fights, but it was only maybe twice a year, and my maximum paycheck ever was $2,200. So I would take that and put it towards some things. But now that I make a whole year's salary of Tire Kingdom in one night, pretty much, I'm free to do whatever I want because I was surviving off of that. I'm still living the same exact way.
Mm-hmm. So, what are your thoughts on UFC fighters that do have multiple jobs? Do you think that they should be paid to a point where they can make this a full-time job, or is there really a lack of sympathy saying that, hey, if you're not making as much money as you want, you should have a second job?
Are they in the UFC?
Sure.
Are we talking about UFC fighters?
Sure. I mean, Jeff Neal, who's probably a top 20 welterweight. I mean, he's a waiter.
Yeah, I personally, I still want to go and do like security jobs down at the local downtown area and just sit and make some extra money, just so I can probably use it to travel or do meal plan companies or something like that. But I see it to be in a top 20 and to also, I don't have family, so
okay.
With people that are up there and they're trying to support 2 kids and their wife and pay homes and all that, I don't have those issues.
Mm-hmm. So
not issues, but I don't have those.
Don't have those responsibilities.
Exactly.
All right. we'll better word that one to help you save face. Yeah, that was the thing I never really understood is that fighters. I don't know if it's an entitlement. Like I definitely see how people think they're worth more. I think everyone thinks that, but. I mean, is the professional athlete in general entitled not to have to work multiple jobs because there's plenty of normal everyday people that work multiple jobs? I
think so. I think if you're made it to the top of the food chain, the tier, the tier of MMA or NBA, NFL, whatever, any kind of sport, if you make it that far, if you put in all the work, you made it that far, I don't think you should have to work anymore. I think you should be getting paid enough to live off of that.
Sure. So what do you think about the sponsorship deal? It looks like the Reebok sponsorship deal is coming to an end. Dana is obviously shopping around. What are your thoughts on what they should do next? And as an employee of the company, what would you like to see better out of the sponsorship?
Definitely. I like how Reebok is doing everything. The amount that's paid to us through Reebok is not enough, but I do like that every time we fight, we get this whole bag full of clothing. And I think we should be able to contact and request more clothing or like personalized clothing so we can represent them and want to represent them. Because I don't want to wear a plain white Reebok shirt. It's boring. Just put my name on it somewhere, and that's perfect. So I think with this next one, I'm hoping that it's a similar company, Adidas, Under Armour, Nike, some kind of company. But I also hope for freedom in design as well.
Sure. I think a lot of guys have the problem with it being a one sponsor as opposed to when you didn't have the uniform deal.
Yeah.
You could have multiple sponsors. And that's multiple streams of revenue, and I think the problem that's I think the big beef with it, especially, is that you can't have a pair of shorts with this local place contacted me and they want to give me money. Why can't I put it on my shorts? And I definitely see where they're coming from there.
Exactly, because like people in Bellator say they go back to Bellator because they're making so much more money being able to put their sponsors on their shorts.
Right.
I've heard of people back in the day when they had it in the UFC making $45,000 just per one sponsor for a year.
Yeah,
That's one sponsor. Imagine having 10 on your shorts.
Yeah, and not to play devil's advocate, but then you also don't have guys being shaken down by sponsors who just don't pay. And I know there's been several controversies before the Reebok deal where there were shady sponsors that just were not making payments. And I don't think anybody can say Reebok hasn't paid them. And yeah, maybe it's less, but at least they,
Yeah,
you haven't had to put a sponsor on blast because they didn't give you your $10,000 royalty check or whatever.
I got you there.
Yeah, so I mean, both sides of the coin, it's kind of a two-way argument. Now, getting away from that part of the fight, now I want to talk about you specifically as a fighter. Like you said, you came into the UFC, fought a guy who's literally fighting for the title on the card we're talking about this week, and then you fought Thomas Gifford. And that's the fight that I really remember. What are your thoughts on that fight? Because Thomas Gifford, I mean, a lot of people were just very concerned about him and the amount of damage he took. So kind of just give us your thoughts on that fight and what you thought when you were, obviously handing out such a one-sided beating.
I took that fight on 4-day notice to replace someone who I'm training with now, Brock Weaver. And before that fight, I was getting ready to face Danny Henry.
Yeah.
Out in Copenhagen. So it was not like I was out of shape. I did run into an issue with MRSA going into my fight with Danny Henry. And for a blessing, Danny Henry pulled out. And I was just like, hey, okay, that's perfect because I can't fight either. So once I got the MRSA cleared up, they offered me this fight, and it was like immediately, like once it cleared up, and I was like, perfect. I'm not out of shape. I'm still pretty good. Let's do it. So I took that fight, and then going into the fight, how he took as much beating as he did, I think that's his heart. But the controversy in the corner was big. It played a big factor when he would go into the corner because no fighter's ever gonna. I mean, aside from the last card, but no fighter's ever gonna tell you they don't want to fight anymore.
Right.
And
who we've had on the show, by the way, before that fight. So yeah. I think maybe coming on the show is the kiss of death. Maybe you should go.
I don't know. Honestly, I had fun that fight. I just went out there. I was in great shape. I just did what I wanted to do and fought the same way I've been fighting my whole life. I never game planned for anybody, so I don't know what Thomas Gifford was about. I didn't know if he was a grappler, a boxer. But it never really matters to me. I train everywhere. I'm good for anything.
Yeah, and first and foremost, for the viewers, if you haven't watched Mike Davis versus Thomas Gifford, watch it just from the aspect of Mike. The fight shouldn't have been about Thomas Gifford. The fight should be about how good Mike fought because it was such a one-sided beating. But his next fight, he goes out on the regional circuit after taking that massive beating. He got KO'd by some 500, below 500 fighter. So that's, I think, goes to, as you could probably attest to, taking a fight after taking such a beating. I think you need to give your body some time off.
Yeah, he jumped in way too fast. I saw that too.
Yeah, and it was quick, if I'm not mistaken, either. So
like 40-something seconds, 48 seconds.
Against a guy who was I don't remember the exact. Don't quote me on this, but he was 7-9 or something. And if you're in the UFC and then you're losing to a guy that's 7-9, something was wrong. Yeah. So now you said your next fight is at 155. Now, should I assume that is because of the fights have been on shorter notice than usual because of the circumstances we have going on? Is that the reason you're taking another at 55, or?
I believe that after a failed attempt at 145 on a 2-week notice, after the coronavirus came into play, I wasn't able to work out as much, and all I was subject to was food and riding my bike, which it's not enough to keep my weight down, going from burning 10,000 calories a day to 2. So I went up to about 180 pounds, and then they offered me a fight at 45 for 2 weeks, and I just could not get my weight down there. So I talked with the coaches, I talked with my nutritionists and my strength and conditioning coaches, and they're all saying that 155 is where I'd be better. I've been training with Phil Daru over in Boca, and we've discussed the 155 turnaround. I've been lifting. I've been gaining strength. I've been with him for about a month and a half. I've already added so much. I'm phenomenally stronger than I was in May. And this 55 bout is going to be fun because I'm handling 185ers right now. So I feel great.
So do you actually have a fight scheduled?
Ooh, I did. I had an opponent scheduled for Fight Island, but we're going to wait until August just to make sure I got everything under control.
For sure. Now, before we get into the UFC card for the weekend, UFC 251, what are your thoughts on Fight Island? There was so much speculation into what it was going to be. There were people talking about, oh man, it's going to be like that island from Mortal Kombat. And then there was others like me who actually predicted it. I said it'll probably be, one of those artificial UAE islands, United Arab Emirates. What were your thoughts before you actually figured out what Fight Island was? What did you depict it as? And then what do you think with what the UFC is doing in terms of actually still putting on fights when other companies like Bellator are not, and finding a way to get done?
I think it's awesome that we're still able to do this. We're still able to make money for the family, the house, while everyone else is unemployed or working terrible hours here. We're still able to train and we're still able to fight, and that's amazing that the UFC is doing that.
For sure.
And then when it comes to Fight Island, when I first heard of Fight Island, I was thinking like an island maybe right next to the States, having a cage outside, making it terrible heat. and then when I found out it was in Abu Dhabi, I was thinking, all right, it's probably going to be on one of their fanciest islands, and they'll get a little spot in the corner and throw the fights there.
Yeah, you don't want to do those outdoor fights. I remember I went to one, and it was the dead of summer, and the sun was just beating on the mats. The guy's fucking feet were were burning, and in between fights, they had to take cold water, and they'd have to mop the arena, the floor. They would do it in between rounds with like a damp mop, but it wasn't doing much.
That's terrible.
Take that and do that in the UAE, which is basically a desert. And I think they had to do it indoors somewhere, where there's some climate control.
No.
So
that's terrible.
So let's take a look at UFC 251's main card. We'll discuss the fights, and then we'll give our predictions if you have them. We'll just do the main card. It's a stacked card. I'm looking at everything from up and down. Three of these fights could have made it on the main card over one in particular. But let's start off in the women's flyweight division. You have one of the more popular women's fighters in Paige Van Zandt taking on Amanda Ribas. So, Mike, what do you think about this fight?
Amanda Ribas. I don't think Paige Van Zandt has been focused too much in MMA now that she's a Instagram woman. So I think Amanda Ribas is looking to completely end her career, make her 8-5, and take her out of the UFC.
Do you think with a loss, Paige would just hang it up?
I think so, because she even made a statement that she makes more money doing Instagram stuff than she does in the UFC, so she has no need for it.
Yeah, and
if she loses, I say she stops fighting.
That's a pretty bold prediction, and I don't think it's necessarily as crazy as people would think. I think you have to an extent, are right. I mean, you got to remember she did Dancing with the Stars. She has mainstream appeal. She was in Sports Illustrated swimsuit. You're right. She's got a big Instagram following, even though her husband is kind of I guess I'll reserve that comments, but we made fun of him on another show as well. But I mean, she is coming off a victory by submission, but the girl she's fighting, 3-0. She had that 3-year layoff because she got tagged for the substance abuse or the whatever. I don't know if it would be steroids or whatever, but she's come back. She's 3-0 in the UFC, including a win over Mackenzie Dern. So I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think Amanda Ribas takes it. I think Paige tries to strike with her. I think Ribas gets her down and basically out-grapples her.
I'll call that too. That's
All
good.
right. We're in agreement on the first one. Let's go to the next fight. So we have another women's fight. This is actually a rematch from an old strawweight championship fight.
This is the one where she got slammed on her head, right?
Yes, this was a scary one. Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas. And if I'm not mistaken, Rose has not fought since Andrade slammed her on her head, which was one of the more scary knockouts I've seen in a while. So why don't you kind of break this one down for us?
I think Rose takes that. She comes back. She learned from her mistake. She's been training. She hasn't fought since. She's just been playing that image over and over in her head, and it's been fueling her to win this fight.
Yeah, and I actually took Rose Namajunas as well, under the assumption that she has had a full training camp and her head's in the right place because I know she's had some personal issues outside of the cage. Andrade obviously is coming. I'm gonna have to check my work here, but I'm pretty sure Andrade is coming off of losing the title, which is true to Weili Zhang, who beat her in 42 seconds. Andrade is really, she's one of two fighters. She's either a dominant fighter or she's one that's really, you're like, well, I've heard things about her and I'm kind of disappointed. That's how I've always viewed her, but she's always fighting the top girls. If this is a striking battle, I think Namajunas takes it. She's rangier, she's longer,
Hmm.
she works the jab well, good footwork. Andrade, obviously the more powerful of the two, as you saw, in the way that she slammed Rose on her head. And again, as I said with the Mike Davis Thomas Gifford fight, if you haven't seen that slam by Andrade on Namajunas, watch it. It's pretty brutal.
That's just a sign of power. Like she had power right there.
Yeah, and she's very compact too. She's short, but
Hmm.
she's built like a fire hydrant kind of. So we both take Namajunas in that one. Although that was, I think, my biggest toss up on the main card. So then
I think so.
we go to the first of three title fights on this. This is why this is going to be an awesome event. We got Peter Yan taking on Jose Aldo for the vacant bantamweight
Oh
championship.
yeah, that's right.
Because yes, Henry Cejudo did vacate it in his
Yeah.
supposed retirement. Looks like he's trying his hand at pro wrestling sometime soon, which will be interesting.
No, he's calling out the boxer,
Oh, Ryan Garcia.
Wait, yeah,
Yeah, I saw that.
he's trying for that $100 million Conor paycheck.
Yeah, well, we'll see if that happens. Connor's kind of a much bigger star than him. But first and foremost, does Aldo even deserve this title shot?
No.
So is he getting it just because of who he is? And also, you got to think they're probably not going to throw Aljamain Sterling in there because he had a fight not like a few weeks ago. So it's not like he would have been able to make that turnaround, unfortunately.
I think Aldo is it's because of his name, definitely. But he was the same way as Anderson Silva. He had one really bad, weird loss, and when he came back in, he was completely different. Compact. He's scared to throw, and same thing with Anderson Silva. He's not as playful as he used to be, and it was all over breaking his shin.
Yep.
I remember what happened to Jose.
Well, he got KO'd by Connor. That was his big. I think that was what.
Yes. Okay. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That was the one.
Yeah, the one right.
Because after that, he's never the same. Peter's taking this one.
Yeah,
I think
large consensus.
I think it'll be kind of quick too. First round.
Really? Wow. Jose, since losing to Connor, is 3-4. Although his last fight against Marlon Moraes was a lot closer than I thought it would be. But I'm with you. I think Peter Yan, he's been a guy that I scouted before the UFC. I said this is a guy that's going to give a guys a lot of problems, and he certainly has. And I think you're going to see the newest Russian world champion in Peter Yan come fight night.
He works.
Yeah.
He works hard. I see him because I was at the Tiger Muay Thai last summer. And I see what he does and how he works. He puts in work.
Yeah, he's a ferocious guy too, aggressive. He's so I don't want to say meticulous, but he just does things so as close to perfect as you can, and he's a workhorse. So yeah, definitely Peter Yan, and then he'll probably square off with Aljo probably at the end of the year. Assuming they need title fights on cards.
Yeah, I think so too.
Co-main, we got a rematch. We got the featherweight title on the line. Alex Volkanovski looking to defend his title against Max Holloway. Did Max deserve the instant rematch?
Yeah, because didn't they go to decision, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that's a rematch right there. And Max Holloway, when I got into MMA, I started a pro. I think I've been a pro for 5 years, but I've been one of those years I was out. So when I started, Max Holloway was the person I looked up to, the way he moved, how playful he was, how good of a person he was. He was the person that I followed all the way up. And then I trained with Alex, and I saw Alex is. So Alex beat him once. I want to see.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Alex at Tiger Muay Thai for a bit?
Tiger too.
Yeah.
That's the gym out there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the gym out there.
No doubt.
Dang. I'm going to probably go with Alex again.
Yeah, this one was a close one too. I just have a hard time seeing Holloway lose twice in a row, but man, Volkanovski again, another guy I scouted before the UFC. He was a guy that I had my eye on. I'll say when I'm wrong. I never thought he would be a world champion. I always thought he'd be a top 15 guy, and he ended up obviously being number one. So good for him. He's just so solid, and he's an outstanding overall athlete.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big advantage because Holloway's a great scrapper and he's tough as shit. But Volkanovski is one of the best athletes in the lower weight classes, period. So
I want to see Max mix it up more in this fight. Start utilizing some takedowns. You don't always have to strike with somebody. So.
Right. And you're right. He does get caught in doing that sometimes. So you're taking Volkanovski. I am also taking Volkanovski. So maybe we'll have a difference of opinion in the main event because we're now 4 for 4 on the same picks. We got Kamaru Usman headlining at the welterweight championship. He's taking on Gilbert Burns, who did not fight long ago. So this was a quick turnaround fight for him, and he's really looked spectacular in his last few fights.
Gilbert is hungry. Usman is. I feel like he's walked through. Not really walked through. He's had some wars, some long fights, but the 2-3 of the best top 170 fighters out there. Now he has to fight someone who he trains with every day. But I just think because Usman's had it, whenever you get something, you're like, you start to calm down a little bit. But Gilbert doesn't have anything yet, and he's been walking. He's not even trying to skip anybody. He just fought every single person he can fight.
Yep.
And beat all of them.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Usman. Usman out-wrestled – well, no, that's more of a Gilbert Burns thing. Gilbert Burns out-wrestled Tyron Woodley, which was shocking given their pedigrees. I
think Gilbert would take this one.
You got Gilbert Burns as your new UFC welterweight champion. Is that what you're saying, Mike Davis?
I have not only because of what I just said, but he also beat me, so I have to give him some credit for that too.
Yeah, because then you can say you lost to the world champion in your UFC debut. I get what you're doing. I am going to take Usman in this fight. I think he's just on another level right now. Again, when it comes to athleticism, there's not many guys that are more athletic than him. He's freakishly strong. Good cardio for a guy with that muscle mass. I'm not saying he has the best cardio, but for carrying that much muscle, he does have pretty decent cardio. Watching him beat up Colby Covington, watching him beat up Tyron Woodley, he just seems to hit his stride. I think he's a guy you're going to see be champion for at least another couple of years. And unless we find somebody who really exploits his striking and has outstanding takedown defense and can just hold him on the feet and avoid getting hugged for a while. So I am going to take Usman.
The thing with that is that if Gilbert can match him on the feet or outdoes him on the feet, he'll resort to wrestling.
Right.
And that's where it doesn't matter if Usman gets him down. Gilbert's a 3-time world champion on the ground.
True.
That's where he's going to succeed.
That's a fair analysis as well. And the big one I'm looking forward to, I want to watch Masvidal versus Usman anyways, because Masvidal is a crazy person. And, Usman's kind of the straight man. So I don't know. I think that'd be kind of an interesting matchup, even though I think Masvidal would probably get
He's strong.
Yeah.
Masvidal, he's just an odd strength because I go with big people and he's still stronger than him.
Really?
Yes, he's stronger.
And talk about a guy that's literally just fights just to fight all the time. I mean, remember he got known in the Kimbo Slice backyard fighting videos, and then he became like this mixed martial arts guy who, in recent times knocked out, Ben Askren with a 5-second flying knee. So that guy's journey has been pretty incredible.
I love that knockout because they played the video of him in the back room getting ready for the fight, doing the exact motion for that knee. Yep. Then when the bell rang, he followed it to a T and boom, executed.
I also love how he walks around like an Indian grandfather with the hands behind the back and the very slow stroll. Like I have a lot of those guys in my neighborhood, and it just always cracks me up seeing a guy like Masvidal do that. So So, Mike, we really appreciate you coming on the show. If you'd like to plug, where can we find you? Is there anybody you'd like to plug? You can take some time and present yourself.
Well, no, just my Instagram, my Twitter, Mike Davis MMA. I'm trying to get the hang of sticking to those, checking them every day. I do respond to everybody, so if you want to message me, please feel free. If I take a little bit, I'm sorry, but I will get back to you.
It's true, guys.
What else? I do definitely thank Phil DeRue and American Top Team because I've only been with them for a year now, not even a year, and they've really improved my game. I promise you that Thomas Gifford fight, I am 5 times the fighter I was then and now. 5 times the fighter.
Well, that's a scary thought.
And I haven't fought since then, so I'm very excited to get back in the cage and just test my skill set, climb the ladder. I'm not looking to skip. People are always asking me if I want to fight like top 15s. No, I don't want to do that. I want to fight. I'm ranked like 90. Let's go 85, 80. Climb up that rank. I don't want to jump. That's pretty much all I have right now.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to do my quick plugs here, and then we'll get you on your way. Check out MMAintel.blog for all prospect stuff. I have a lot of the updates on the Dana White Contender Series, UFC rankings, prospect rankings, all that good stuff. We have a scouting report on a new fighter every week. Check it out there. You can hit me on Twitter, Big Riles MMA. I also write for Combat Press. Lots of stuff. I say it every show. If you want to hear it, I'm not going to bore you with it anymore. But again, tune in every week to the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network for this horrible show. If you continue to like fighter interviews where I don't really prepare and basically just go off the top of my head. So, Mike, thank you very much. Again, guys, Mike will hopefully be fighting in August. We'll keep an eye out on that. So for Mike Davis, I'm Riley Contek saying thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the fights this week and go fuck yourselves.